ultimately this will go down as a big match because this was the match that ended the streak or the run or whatever you call it. God forbid I bring up a streak while JB's around. But, this run with the titles that they've had. So now we're going to speak about it, in retrospect. So in retrospect, we do have the New Day as the longest reigning tag team champions of any belt or any tag team championship lineage in WWE history. So that, statistically, New Day is the greatest tag team of all time. How does New Day go down in history up to this point, considering that they've been given this piece of history, to the fans' perspective and in terms of talent and in terms of, non-wins and losses, championship reigns, in terms of how this team is perceived and how over this team has been or has not been, where does this team stand right now in terms of the greatest tag teams of all time? Are they top 5? Because according to, the statistics, they should be top 1.
They're definitely not number 1. I don't even know if I put them in the top 3 because I don't think a title reign defines who you are. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, the longest reign WWE reigning champion, if I'm not mistaken, was Bruno Sammartino. Is that correct? And I don't think would you guys consider him a top 3 guy ever?
Well, shit. I mean, it's tough to, and again, it comes into what do you define as, the best? Are we talking the best wrestler? Are we talking about most impactful? I mean, if we're talking about guys that left a legacy on the sport of wrestling, Bruno Sammartino is a top 3 easily because, of the legacy he left.
Right, and I would absolutely agree 100% with you because he was one of the biggest guys. At one time, he was the biggest guy. I mean, that's why he had the title so long. But all those categories you just named, whether it be impactful, whether it be in-ring, whether it be leaving a legacy, I don't care what category you want to talk about, I don't see New Day in any of those categories being top 3. Someone prove me wrong.
I wouldn't argue that point. I agree with you completely. I don't think New Day's top 3, maybe not even top 5, top 10. You can get into the conversation there, but I don't think they're top 3, top 5. Not in my book, not at all.
Just in a company, right? Probably top 10 somewhere. If we're talking just in a company.
Yeah, I could see that.
Just in WWE, I would even maybe put them in top 5, just because I'm just having a hard time thinking of a whole lot of tag teams in just WWE that I would put over them. So I think I'd put New Day top 5 if I include all companies.
Hard Foundation.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I can rally them off right now, but it's just in terms of just what comes in mind, I think New Day is up there. I might even put them in top 10. Out of all companies, but it'd be tough. I mean, they'd be right on that fringe. So, I mean, what does New Day need then to move into that upper echelon, given the fact that they've already made history statistically, they've already gotten over, and, they've moved merchandise. I mean, they've checked all the boxes, really. So what do they need to do?
Here's the problem.
In my opinion, the era in which they did it in, they can't top. They can never get the top 3, in my opinion. When you look at what teams had to do in previous eras, even before the Attitude Era. In this era, they're so protected. This era is so much more about than just ring work or what you can genuinely do to get over the crowd. WWE forces people's hands. They can never get in my top 3 ever.
The CEO just actually hit the nail on the head for me, and I agree with the same thing. It's for that reason they can never get there. For all those reasons you just said. Also, when you look at teams who are above them, Hard Foundation, Demolition, the teams that
Demolition. I mean, you put Demolition into your top 5, top 10.
Demolition is my favorite team of all time.
Oh,
all time.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay. All right.
I said they were my favorite team of all time. I didn't say they're the best team of all time. But
no, that's fair.
They're my favorite team. But going back to what I was saying was, what those teams had is they had other great teams that they could feud with. Right. So, back in those times, if you guys can remember, I know Coop could back me up on this, the tag team scene was a huge scene. They were great storylines, and not just one, like two feuds, and they had great matches surrounding the title, and even great matches not around the titles. It was a center point with the product. Nowadays, they don't have that, so I don't think they could ever get to that. What do you think, Coop? Am I crazy?
No, absolutely not. I mean, like you think about when tag team wrestling was really hot, and we're talking about early. No, we're talking about very early '90s. So you got Demolition. They bought the Road Warriors, and at that time you had. I know nobody's going to think of Money Inc. as a great team, but you are talking about Mike Rotunda and Ted DiBiase.
Absolutely.
Like there were just a lot of great teams, and there just aren't that now. Plain and simple, that there just isn't. You bring in Gallows and Anderson, and like I was saying the last time I was on, I've been watching getting caught up on a lot of New Japan. Those guys were serious. They don't even have an identity in WWE. And who's the next team? Who's the next great team, or who's the next tier down? Doesn't matter, because everybody's on the same playing field because of the way they're booked. So in that regard, it's what Michael Jordan and everybody else sort of kind of situation.
And here's my opinion also, not to cut you off, Coop, but
sure.
Just when we're talking about legacy, and even let's touch it into make it a little bit more recent. Nothing the New Day can do for tag team wrestling can even remotely touch what the Hardys and Edge and Christian were able to do for tag team wrestling. Not even
absolutely great
close.
Point.
So to talk about them even being able to approach a top 5, a top 3, there's 2 tag teams right there that they will never be able to pass, in my opinion. And that's not even talking about legacy teams and teams that were around who did it. I mean, we're 4 Horsemen. I mean, like this, it's stuff that they will never be able to touch. So to say, and I'm not, your top 5 is your top 5, Josh. I never. This is wrestling. I never want to argue anyone's top against anyone else. But just for me personally, I could say not even trying to run it down. They could probably get in my top 10, but anything more than that is pushing it.
I mean, so the crux of at the gut of what you guys are saying, it's salient to point out that I cannot name more than one New Day matches that come to mind as saying, damn, that was a fucking stellar match. That's a problem when you're talking about the greatest tag team. Because, my God, I mean, you run down the list of tag teams that would be considered, some of the greatest of all time. Instantly, matches pop in your head as either instant classics or, career-defining matches. That happens with so many different tag teams. New Day, I don't even think has had that match. Their best match, in my opinion, was their 3-way at TLC 2015 against the Lucha Dragons and the Usos. A lot of people don't remember that. A lot of people don't remember that match. That match was a fucking stellar match and was one of my favorite matches of last year. But that's it. That's really the only New Day match. So, I mean, we do have to move away from this because, there is a lot more to get to on the show. But I think it
honestly,
is.
I didn't mind speaking this long on that because this is the one match that really has something that we can talk about and we can get into a discussion like this. So I don't mind. Yes, we have gone long. We probably do need to move on. But this would be an interesting thing to have a roundtable on, just sit there and talk about, now that they've broken that record, to sit down and just talk about what their legacy is. If they were to break up tomorrow, what that legacy would be, and see where that stands in the history of wrestling. I don't think of them as highly in any generation. And I also think that even if you look now in their generation, I think that the Revival can easily pass them up. Not necessarily based on the length of title run. I mean, as far as being a quality tag team and pushing the tag team division in new heights, I think the Revival can do that. I think American Alpha, once they decide to let the leash off of them on SmackDown and actually do something, can easily pass that. Like what the New Day have done for tag team wrestling, it's been entertaining. That's the most thing. As far as in the ring, no. I mean, yes, they've moved merchandise. Yes, they've done all that. But let's take all that away. They just don't stand to me when you take away the entertaining aspect.